Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Album Build Club. Before we get started on this episode, I just want to take a second and go over all the issues we've had. I know you guys have been waiting on this one for a little while. Essentially, technology has not been our friend. We lost the hard drive containing most of our footage, leaving us with one camera angle left over from everything we had originally anticipated in this video. There's still a chance we're going to get that footage back. And if we do, we will put a new edit together, more than likely, so that you guys can have what we intended for this episode. All right, moving on. In part one, we really focused on the playability of the guitar. So now in part two, we're gonna focus on the sound. And the biggest thing that affects the sound is the player. But beyond that, the biggest change we can make to the actual guitar is the pickups. The pickups that came in this guitar are also pretty ugly, so there's that too. We're gonna go ahead and fix that while we're at it. So before we roll the clip, let's take a short journey into what and why on our pickups. If your brain starts to melt, feel free to skip ahead a little bit, but I promise I'll try to be quick. This is not a pickup, this is an electromagnet, probably similar to something you would build in a middle school science class. This is a simpler way to begin to explain exactly what a pickup does. In this electromagnet, the coil of wire works with the nail to generate magnetism using electricity. In a pickup, a coil of wire works with a magnet to generate electricity. More specifically, alternating current, which we know as audio. All of the parameters of a pickup work together to define its sound. The dimensions of the coil, the amount and the size of wire on the coil, the magnets used, and any sort of quasi-magnetic or otherwise known as ferrous material in or around the pickup will all have effects. Luckily for us, we have some proven recipes to use as a starting point. During the early days of electric guitars, the particular designs of the pickup worked with the amplifier to give the guitar what we now know as its voice, which is why we still use these designs from the 1940s and 50s today in a form that has not changed all that much. Of course, there are a lot of types of pickups, but today I'm just going to cover the main two. Conveniently enough, the guitar we're working on actually has both types. The first type of pickup we're going to talk about is the single coil. There are lots of single coil designs, including the P90, Telecaster, Jazzmaster, and various gold foils, but the most common by far is the one Leo Fender introduced in the Stratocaster in 1954. The Strat pickup features a small but tall coil of wire and magnetized rods in the center. These magnets are traditionally Alnico, an iron alloy featuring aluminum, nickel, and cobalt. Vintage models have these magnets staggered to make up for the distance to the curved fretboard and different string composition of the high B and E string, because originally these guitars would have had a wound G. This leads to a bright and full tone, perfect for cleans, which is why we're using them in the neck and middle positions of this guitar. The pickups we're installing here are a vintage output neck and a slightly hotter middle pickup. In order to get what I wanted, I actually ordered a middle pickup and a bridge pickup. Both are Alnico, specifically Alnico 5. Since I used two different manufacturers, I also ordered new covers for both of them, which didn't exactly fit, so I had to use sandpaper to open the pickguard up a little bit. There is a very obvious problem with single coil pickups though, once distortion is added. The coils hum. This hum could be coming from a lot of different things. It is specifically known as electromagnetic interference. You'll get it from mostly lights in the room you're in. There are a few different solutions that have been come up for this over the years. In fact, most famously in what's being used in this guitar, Fender eventually figured out that they needed to use a middle pickup that is reverse wound, reverse polarity of the other, so that you can get hum canceling in the in-between positions. That is assuming you get everything right. The vintage solution to this though comes in the original humbucking pickup, which was invented by Seth Lover for Gibson and debuted in 1957 in the Les Paul. Its party trick is that it's made up of two slightly smaller coils, and one coil is wound to the opposite direction and wired in reverse polarity of the other. This means that most signals they both receive that aren't the string moving will be canceled when it slams into the inverse of the other. Easily you can just say it bucks hum. The humbucker rather cleverly uses one bar magnet underneath the coils to give one side a positive and one side a negative magnetic charge. One coil has adjusting screws while the other does not, and that was originally an aesthetic choice by Gibson. The two coil design also has the effect of muting some of the highs, making this pickup much better in the bridge position, which naturally has more highs. And that's why we're using it in the bridge here. By now you've probably noticed there's actually two humbuckers. Modern pickup manufacturers have discovered that if coils are different outputs, you can still get most of the hum canceling effect while getting a more lively sound. And since our budget didn't allow for a boutique option, I really don't like cheap humbuckers, so I decided to build one pickup out of the parts from two others. What initially inspired this thought was a Seymour Duncan model called the 59 Custom Hybrid. So what I did is I ordered 2 humbuckers, both from the same manufacturer, hoping that the mounting points and polarity would be the same. I got really lucky and they were. A side note, this work really isn't that difficult if you are careful, but I've definitely ruined a couple of pickups trying to do this kind of thing. I'm not responsible if you ruin something nice. What the final product here is 1 hot slug coil and 1 vintage output screw coil with an Alnico 2 bar magnet and the snazzy chrome cover that I put on and immediately put a chip into. I've got no idea what it will actually sound like, but I theoretically like it a lot. Once we have all the pickups installed, all that's left is to wire up the switch and reattach the pick guard. Hopefully you all got something out of that. I really did my best to stick to pertinent information, but I'm pretty good at digressing once you get me going. If you guys do have pickup questions, I'll do my best to answer them in the comments, or if there's enough interest, I'll do a deeper dive later. Feel free to let us know. Don't forget to throw a like and subscribe down there below while you're there. We do appreciate you watching, so don't feel like you've got to do anything though. In part 3, we're going to get the guitar put back together and do a playing test. At this point, since I know ahead, there's probably also going to be a part 4 where I fix all the things that don't go quite as planned. Between the hard drive loss and what you'll see on the next episode, I actually think this guitar might be cursed. It certainly has not gone together like I hoped. Stay tuned for the drama, and I'll see you next time.